Good afternoon and welcome. I am your host, Dr. NACE. You are listening to HamiltonRadio.net. We are also broadcasting on Facebook Live. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. John Hugo. He is the president and founder of the Super Happy Fun America organization out of Boston. Also, in 2018, John was a candidate for the 5th congressional seat in Massachusetts. Through the Super Happy Fun America organization, John Hugo organized the first ever successful straight pride parade. Yes, you heard me correctly, not a gay pride parade, but a straight pride parade. It took place over the Labor Day weekend last year, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of it. Welcome, John.
Hey, Felicia, how you doing today? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for being here. This is truly a pleasure because we get to find out firsthand why you organized the first straight pride parade, what all it entailed, what type of dangers you faced in doing so. And I just want to applaud you for pushing back against a very aggressive agenda in this country and saying that there's a place for people who are heterosexual as well. There's a place and a voice. So thank you, John.
Well, we're trying to make a little mark in the world. And it was a very frustrating experience running for Congress in Massachusetts. As soon as I was getting on the ballot, the very far left Republican and name-only governor pushed another guy who's a real liberal Republican and very wealthy to try to keep me from winning the nomination. And we absolutely crushed him. We got like 64% of the vote, even though he outspent us, by a wide margin. And just goes to show there are conservatives in Massachusetts who will support their fellow conservatives. But It was very frustrating because our governor pretty much stole all the money and put it in his own pocket. The head of the Republican Party, who was just his lackey, Mass GOP chairwoman Kirsten Hughes, was so bad, she refused to talk to candidates. I'm not kidding. And we're talking all the candidates, and nobody got a penny. They literally stole all the money. And when we finally ousted that regime this year, the conservatives took over the state committee and pushed out Hughes. And we have a new guy, Jim Lyons, and he actually did an audit. And we found out they spent $200,000 on steak dinners and private parking, but not a penny for candidates. It's just an awful regime.
Wow.
And to make matters worse, I couldn't get a single interview in the press. And Catherine Clark, this far-left nut job, she refused to even debate or even take our phone calls. Very rude woman. So at the end of all that, it's really 2 years of very hard work. I got 74,000 votes, not enough. Mm-hmm. And I was really frustrated.
But John, bravo, because you pitched your hat in the arena. And there are a lot of people out there wondering today why we don't have viable candidates on the Republican side of things. And a lot of it has to do with things that happen in the back room, such as what you described here today.
Oh, it's so bad. Only 17% of all races in the state had a Republican challenger, and that means a guaranteed supermajority for the other side. It's just a shame. It's a broken system. There's no level playing field. The press is in the tank for the Democrats, as we all know, and they just do everything they can to ruin your day. But the silver lining is after I'd gotten through that, I had a pretty good organization we put together, quite a couple hundred people. And I met Captain Mark Zahedi, who's a combat veteran from Afghanistan, the rank of captain. He was just an amazing guy, real smart guy. And he had a group called Resist Marxism, which was an anti-communist group. He's always being dragged through the mud for that. And we got together, and when we got together, I like to say we created a new element because we put together the concept of straight pride. We thought this would be a great way to prove the hypocrisy of the left, and it worked like a charm because when we decided we were going to have a straight pride parade, the story went viral, and within a few days was the top, hit number one on Twitter for the first of 2 times, and literally was an avalanche of press attacking us. After only 4 days, they started calling us white supremacists, which I found amazing because when we said straight pride, we never mentioned race or even gender. But that's what they do. They go to the white supremacist stuff all the time. Now, you were an operator. It looks like
I remember, but let's back up, because I want to talk about your mission statement so that people understand exactly what your organization is all about. So the mission statement of the Super Happy Fun America organization, it is a right of center. I'm reading straight from your website. It is a right of center civil rights organization focusing on defending the American Constitution, opposing gender madness, and defeating cultural Marxism.
And we put that on there because they keep calling us far right. And any learned person knows far right means anarchist. Left to right, the far left are your communists, your Nazis, the people that want complete government control. And the further you move to the right, the less government you get. Now, as people who are right of center or conservatives, we realize we need limited government, not no government. So calling someone far right is just stupid. But they just love to say that it's a buzzword which has no real meaning, just like racism has no meaning anymore because they just overuse it. So far right, alt right, control alternate right, whatever. It's just a knee jerk reaction that we deal with. And like I said, anybody who's seen our events, our membership is widely diverse. We have people from all countries and cultures, and what we're being painted as is just the opposite. And yet the press always goes along for the ride. 96% of all press in this country is controlled by 6 companies, and they're all far left leaning. And we're now seeing what is actually a conspiracy of high-tech companies to marginalize all conservatives. They went after Dennis Prager this week and Candace Owens, 2 marvelous conservatives who are doing great work. They had the nerve to say Dennis Prager was fake news and censor him on Facebook. And Candace Owens is banned from Twitter. When I was being doxxed by Antifa, like all of our leadership, they would put my personal information on Twitter, and we were all harassed on the job. They did terrible
things.
So
let's back up a bit. So when you first decided to put this Straight Pride Parade together, I sort of came in on the middle of that because you had reached out to me. You invited me to come to speak in Boston. And because my book had just come out, Top Down Confusion, and it talks somewhat about the LGBT curriculums that are rolling out in school districts across the country. And you found that interesting. And thank you for reaching out to me. And I was happy to participate. But I remember early on, you were at dinner one night, you and a bunch of your team there. And I happened to call you because I had a follow-up question. And you said, we're being confronted by Antifa right now. Like, you had gone out to dinner, and literally when you stepped outside the restaurant, Antifa was waiting for you. This was even before the parade. This was like in the midst of creating it, like putting it all together.
Yeah, well, the first thing we knew about it is the Boston police detectives came in and told us that Antifa was outside. Obviously, they're watching us, but I assume they're watching Antifa a little closer. We basically says we're not afraid of these people, but as we were leaving, they were throwing rocks at us. And then they pretended, they made up some lies about the police protecting Nazis or something stupid like that. They hate all police, Antifa. They're a domestic terrorist group. Like I said, they've harassed everybody horribly. They've assaulted people in my group. We've never had a single arrest in our group ever at one of our events. And yet the press talked about clashes. There were no clashes. So we have to deal with a press that is always lying. And we're talking the main networks here, the Boston Globe, even the Boston Herald had an article where they quoted Antifa saying that we have Nazi tattoos. Okay? Now, did you see any Nazi tattoos when you were here? They can walk up to me.
I was looking, John, but I didn't see any.
I don't have any tattoos, but the fact that they can put that in the paper, and then people are walking up to me, like people I've known for a long time, I heard you got a Nazi tattoo. People believe what they see on the news and what they see
That's right. Yeah.
And that's why this COVID crisis has been so bad. People are like lemmings.
Yeah, education in this country is a huge problem, and it feeds into, the media frenzy. And that's the thing that people aren't watching. We have a lot of people.
We don't have education anymore.
We don't. It's indoctrination.
Your kid comes home from school, and instead of saying, "Hey, I got an A in math," he said, "Oh, Dad, I just found out I'm a girl. Can I get neutered, please?" This is what's going on. They're recruiting in the public schools now. We actually have one of the commissioners come into our Woburn school system in the suburb I live in and say, I'm here to gayify the school. This is what they're openly doing this now. Now, we don't, like I said, we don't give a damn what you're doing in your bedroom, but that doesn't belong in the public schools. Kids are not learning STEM anymore. We're like 43rd in education now, even though we spend the most. Estonia beat us in education. I mean, it's ridiculous. For the altar of political correctness, we are dumbing down our entire school system. It's just awful.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. And, meantime, we have people in this country who believe that they are well read because they read from the New York Times bestseller list. Listen, dump that list, dump it, go onto Amazon and start reading some of these books by real people who don't have the money to end up on the bestseller list. And that's where you want to find out what's happening in this country with our youth,
It was the New York Times that actually outed us when we were planning the Straight Pride Parade. We weren't ready to go public yet, and they got a hold of it, and they thought they were doing us harm by publishing it, and then started the whole tidal wave of press. Which is, we stopped counting after 70 Hollywood actors attacked us. After every single liberal publication on the planet Earth attacked us. It was amazing. And the more they attacked us, the bigger we got. The View attacked us, Colbert, all those stupid late-night talk show hosts. It was really funny. Don Lemon and Cuomo were attacking us. You could hear in the background all the people in the newsroom laughing because they were on our website, and they were getting visibly angry at their own staff. It was hilarious because we did some funny stuff on the website. And just to show the hypocrisy, we said, well, how about adding S to LGBTQ for straight? That was considered a human rights crime in their eyes, but it shows their hypocrisy. So for gay, if you want to do a gay pride and have naked people walking down the street with children, that's considered heroic, but they had to turn themselves into pretzels to say, if gay pride is that, straight pride is hate. And, aren't we also a sexual orientation? So it's really funny. They just absolutely couldn't stand what we were doing. And we were doing the same thing they were doing. And that's the utter hypocrisy of the left.
Well, I don't know when sexual orientation ever became dinner conversation in this country, but that is the push now, is to focus kids' mindsets on their sexual orientation. The fact is the majority of our children will never experience gender dysphoria unless we create an environment for it, which is exactly what's happening now. And, I'm glad to see that you and your organization, that's part of your work, that you're pushing back on that. Was that a part of...
Dysphoria is not allowed. They're not allowed to say that anymore. They took it out of the medical books. Politicians who were not PhDs had gender dysphoria taken out of the medical books, okay? Because now that's considered... They compare it to the black civil rights movement, and it's nothing of the sort. People were literally discriminated on because of the color of their skin. And to compare it to that is a real outrage and just a slap in the face of all those people who went through the civil rights movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more and more they're starting to do away with that with that type of mindset that they can easily attach themselves to the civil rights movement in this country, because there's so many civil rights leaders who are distancing themselves from those gay organizations now.
Well,
it's offensive.
No one is more vilified than black conservatives. You know that.
Yeah, it's offensive. Who you choose to engage with sexually and how you choose to engage has nothing to do with the civil rights struggle of Black Americans in this country. So, yeah, I'm offended by it, and I let them know that as well.
No, of course not. It makes me furious because, I know people who went through that period and suffered the slings and arrows and the vulgar things that were done to them by Democrats, by the way. It's always been the Democrats that put this stuff. I mean, the Civil War was fought against the Democrat Party, basically, to repeal slavery. Afterwards, it was the Democrats that started Jim Crow. And then they have this stupid lie how everything switched in the 60s. That never happened. That's a bunch of crap. And when civil rights came up as a bill, Democrats tried to filibuster it. and yet Republicans are the racists. Give me a break.
Yeah, they have totally flipped the conversation around to make it seem that it's the Republicans, who perpetuate all these negative actions against people of color in this country and poor people and, just people who are struggling. They have a way of devising these slogans and all this propaganda, and the young people are falling for it. Why? We only need to look at education, John. Look at the test scores.
They've been soaking in it. It's our fault. They've been soaking in it. I tell people we're not in the middle of a struggle right now. This is the end game, and we're losing. People need to rise up, which is part of what our organization is doing. We're gathering together all the smaller organizations so we have a united front, because that's what they have on the other side. And it is going to be too late once our rights are gone. Once we lose that Constitution, and believe you me, we are losing that Constitution by the death of 1,000 cuts. And we don't push back now, it's going to be too late.
It will be too late. Yeah. I think what we're witnessing happening in our country now with the riots and with the marches, I believe it is the beginning of we're going to see other marches and other riots. I hope not to the extent where people are looting. I hope, John, not to the extent where people are looting and that type of thing, because we don't need to destroy people's businesses that they've worked hard for in order to make a point. But I am a protester. You know that. You are too.
Yeah, we have peaceful protests. We don't have to
there's a difference.
Get our point across. There's nothing to do with civil rights when you're setting fires and burning things.
Right. That's very different.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you burned down your own neighborhood. How the hell is that going to help anyone?
It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help anyone. And believe me, these people are going to suffer, and they're going to wake up 2 months from now, and they're going to want to go to dinner, and they'll have to drive 6 miles to a decent restaurant. So they're shooting themselves in the foot. I agree with you, absolutely. But protesting in this country is the American way. More people need to voice their opinions. Pretty soon they're going to start coming for guns. And what is that going to look like? There'll be another uprising.
A lot of people who say, you talk tough, they better not come for my gun over my dead body. I'll say 95% of them will just roll over and hand them their guns, because look at how people have rolled over for all these unconstitutional edicts during this coronavirus, which is now beginning to look like seasonal flu. We now know that only 2 out of 1,000 people die from it, and they're usually over 80 or 85, and they're already dying. We've been scammed. This is nothing compared to what they told us it was, and they're using it to shut down our economy. We had the best economy in 50 years 3 months ago, and now it's the worst one since the Great Depression. And here in Massachusetts, they won't let mom-and-pop stores open, but they open the marijuana shops, they open the liquor stores. Churches are finally allowed open, but only at 40%. Any law against the practice of religion violates the First Amendment. They don't care. They're doing an end run around our Constitution. And even worse, anytime you hear a doctor who disagrees with the lies they're telling us about coronavirus, prominent doctors, they put out a video, and what happens? Big tech is squashing them, censoring them. And if it's only one opinion we're allowed to have, we are seeing de facto censorship in America by all social media. They're all working for the left. And, like I said, when I got doxxed, I contacted Twitter. It absolutely violated their policy. They put all my private information there. They sent me a message that it didn't violate their standards, which is crap. So Twitter is actually working for the left, trying to quash all conservative voices. And they're winning because we've been shut out. As you know, when we started Straight Pride, our Patreon account was shut down because they said we knew Milo.
I remember.
Our PayPal account was shut down, and they left the reason blank. They wouldn't tell us. They said that's their right not to tell us why we were being shut down. We had an online store with Teespring, and Antifa got that shut down. We did a GoFundMe. We raised money, and GoFundMe gave the money back. They wouldn't let us have it. So when I talk about us being the oppressed majority, which drives them crazy, by the way, we're not far off. We are oppressed because we can't even do fundraising. We are literally shut down. Netflix put out a statement saying we're here, we're queer, stand clear and told us and openly said that we're a hate group. So even, the entire left has attacked us. And you know why they're attacking us, Alicia? Because we're succeeding. They wouldn't be attacking us if we were doing nothing. People are listening to us. That's right. And we're growing in numbers, and, we're going to be a juggernaut by the end of this year because the majority of people, and I mean 80%, are with us. And the press lies and lies and lies and says nobody likes us and nobody comes to our event. They always do that. Just can't trust the media anymore. Turn the TV off. There's nothing there but leftist propaganda. We got to go with the alternate media like yours, for example. We've got to get out there on the streets and march. We did take the streets back from Antifa last year with Straight Pride. It was the first conservative event to not be stopped by Antifa, who had every intention of doing it, by the way. We've had to do a lot of last-minute stuff, file injunctions. People have no idea how much they tried to stop us.
We're going to walk them through it. And like you said, we just sort of rolled over for this COVID-19. And I can understand us doing it for even like the first 3 weeks. But this ran into months. Our economy has tanked because of it, as you stated. I hope that we don't continue to roll over because we have some big issues that we're facing in this country in terms of, our amendments.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, what is going to happen when the government comes for those in our society who have legally secured their guns so that they can protect their property?
Our vice president, as I mentioned, he's had his guns taken away without a warrant, Felicia. And even with a court order to give them back, they won't give them back. What the hell is going on? We are seeing the breakdown of law and order, and certainly we are living in a post-constitutional America at this point.
Yep, and you know what? I'm glad you said it, because that is what I've been trying to get across to some folks on Facebook, where they're saying, look at these riots. What is this really about? This is not honoring Floyd's memory. The riots and the marches are not about Floyd. It's about not being listened to. And that's what happens when you have a breakdown like we're experiencing with the Constitution. People are marching peacefully. People are begging and asking for what is inherently theirs. This is what our forefathers have passed down to us, yet no one is obeying the Constitution. The law certainly isn't. We had a business owner here in New Jersey whose business was padlocked. The governor ordered his business padlocked.
A bunch of Jews got arrested for going to a funeral. I think 15 Jewish people were arrested, weren't they, going to a funeral in your state?
That's right. I'm not sure if it was New Jersey or New York, but it was in this area, yes.
But what an outrage. These are Jewish people that just are going to a service. My ex-wife is Jewish. I learned a little bit about the religion, and they bury you right away in the Jewish faith. And these people were just paying their respects. I think that's their right to do. And, the First Amendment says no law shall deny the open practice of religion. None. So any of these fines, any of these police actions against churches, they're absolutely unconstitutional. And again, they're doing an end run around the Constitution. They've just decided we'll just ignore it. What are you going to do? It's really and the courts are all closed, so you can't even file an injunction. It's crazy. I can't walk into a courthouse right now in Massachusetts and file for something. The hospitals,
that's right.
Right now, because they don't have.
So where is the tipping point? Everyone has a tipping point, and there will be more tipping points. As more people's constitutional rights are trampled on, there will be more tipping points. And I think we're going to see similar situations as what we're witnessing right now in this country.
This is a troubled time for our country. And I have never seen in our entire history, even worse than the Civil War, the possibility of us losing completely our constitutional rights. The left is become globalist. They are anti-American. They hate our country. They want to have open borders, flood the country with people so they get a permanent voter class. And it scares me. Beto O'Rourke, who's a friggin' idiot, lost to Ted Cruz by just 3%. If that doesn't scare you, Texas flipping, it's all over. It's all over.
Yeah.
So, I keep telling people, you got to get out there. Everybody thinks someone else is going to be out there fighting for you, and it's just not true. Most people, as soon as they start calling them a Nazi or a white supremacist or a racist, they get scared and they back off. Well, I got a job, I got a family. Well, hell, so do I, but it doesn't mean that we're not responsible for preserving our Constitution. You know, every generation has to fight for that, because we don't want to be the first generation that lost it all. And we're well on our way to doing that, Felicia. It's a very dangerous time for our country.
Yep, it is. And for some reason, you know, the generations before us, you know, they protected our constitutional rights. They did a good job of that, and we inherited that. But this generation, for some reason, I think our kids will look back and say, where were you in the fight against the LGBT curriculum? Why would your generation allow this to become widespread in our country?
Well, you said it. The education system. You said it. It's because of what they've been learning in the schools. But people don't understand what this is. Ultimately, it is cultural Marxism. For communism or socialism, same thing, to take root in the country, they have to destroy the pillars of society. For example, private property. They're going after that right now. It's obvious. You see AOC calling for the suspension of rent. Total communist playbook. Second thing, all this gender madness you're seeing where they're telling kids there's 72 genders and you can have sex when you're 8. You know, this is to break down the family, because under communism, the state becomes the family. So they call normal people cis now. You know, they're trying to change the language. It's quite Orwellian. And, you know, they're succeeding wildly in breaking down the pillars. Another thing they hate is God. For communism to succeed, you need to kill God. And that's why the church is the last thing to open. And the Democrats are openly atheist at this point. I mean, when Nancy Pelosi calls herself a Catholic, it's just a joke. She's for abortion after you're born, for crying out loud. And there's nothing about her that's Catholic. And frankly, I'm ashamed of my own Catholic church for allowing these politicians to go around and saying that they're Catholic when they're just lying. So, you know, people need to step up. And a lot of our institutions are getting lazy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to be up to the fight. So when I arrived at the Super Happy Fun America Straight Pride Parade, the night before, I was very excited. That morning, reality set in, and I hope that my producer can now put up a few pictures. It looked like something out of a third world country. I mean, the police lined the streets. They all had riot gear on. And it wasn't just a few police officers. It looked like the entire...
1,000. We had 1,000 police, including from the suburbs. 1,000. It was like the biggest police force in Massachusetts history, I believe. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
But a part of that, believe it or not, was not to protect us from them. It was to protect them from us, because our patriots said, enough already. We had a free speech rally where like thousands of Antifa showed up and shut that down. Then there was a pro-life rally where the Antifa showed up and doused elderly people with urine. We said, enough. We're drawing a line in the sand. We're going to go march in our licensed parade from A to B. We said that one of the best police forces in America, which the Boston police really are, can certainly keep two streets open for an hour. And, you know, we said if they try to stop us, there's going to be trouble. And we meant it. We don't want to fight anyone, but we certainly will defend ourselves.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You know, I had Hal Shurtleff on the show from Camp Constitution a few weeks ago.
Great friend of mine. Great friend.
Yeah, he's awesome. And it's a great organization.
Very learned man.
So we were talking about
him too, you know.
I know.
They sent messages to all the places he was going to teach people the Constitution for free. They said a Nazi's coming to your town. Everybody's a Nazi in these guys' eyes. They don't even realize Nazis are far left, okay? So they call us far right and Nazis at the same time. They don't even know what they're talking about. You know, this is just their mentality. They can't attack the message because they don't have a cogent, intelligent message. So they attack the messenger.
But the worst thing is that when you say the Constitution, what they're doing, it's a buzzword for kids. It means that you are anti-American if you say the Constitution. You know, if you say anything related to the Constitution. Yeah.
Now, I would call myself a nationalist. I'm proud to be an American, and I want to live under our Constitution. Not the UN, which is, you know, one of the most corrupt organizations in the world. The UN, which condemns Israel for ridiculous things, but they don't consider, you know, places like North Korea a place where human rights are violated, or China for that matter. Right. You know, but Israel is the enemy in the UN. Everybody has to keep attacking poor Israel. Enough already. I don't want to be led by those people. Let's stick with the Constitution. It's done a great job, and let's keep it that way.
Yeah. But the thing is, you know, we have to look at our youth in this country. When they see the flag, when they see the sign of the cross, you know, which represents the Christian religion, when they see certain images, they are now relating that to someone who's Nazi or anti-American, when it's very pro-American.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, as you probably know, the whole straight pride thing had a lot to do with our friend Hal Shurtleff in Camp Constitution, because he tried to fly the Christian flag in Boston, and we tried to fly the straight pride flag in Boston, and we found out of 300 flags, those are the only 2 flags that were denied. So they'll fly communist flags, Muslim flags. You know, they fly the communist Chinese flag, which represents a country that killed 70 million people, and yet a Christian or a flag celebrating traditional marriage, that's banned. So it shows where their mind is at. We can't have Christians here. You know, once we were once a Christian nation, what happened to us?
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank God we have people again like you, like Hal, who are really supporting the Constitution and trying to get the messages out there to youth and families about it. So what are some of the other activities that Super Happy Fun America has been up to? Because the Straight Pride Parade was probably your most memorable event, but it hasn't been your only work. I mean, you're doing work in other areas.
I'll run through them real quick as fast as I can. When the DA dismissed all the assault charges against the police, we did a Back the Blue event with our Vietnamese allies. And again, Antifa showed up and started, you know, calling us Nazis and calling the police the Klan. They were yelling, cops and the Klan go hand in hand. The press showed up and called Antifa, quote, an anti-hate group, thus meaning we were the hate group for supporting the police. So, you know, there weren't any arrests at that event. They showed up with instruments as noisemakers to drown out the sound. And the one of the TV news said he'd never heard such great music. They were using them as noisemakers. They weren't playing music. So this is what you're up against. So even supporting the police is considered bad. After that, when this lockdown started and they were enforcing social distancing, we decided to have a freedom convoy. And we got 40 cars stuffed with people waving flags out the window, and we drove through all the neighborhoods of Boston. And when we got to Beacon Hill, this is very telling. 40 cars show up, and maybe 4 people each car get out, and they're raising hell, and you know, that's a news story, okay? The press who was camped outside the State House, literally, especially Channel 7, they turned their cameras away from us because they were told not to cover our protest. This is what we're dealing with. And literally, they were all agreeing to do this. It's crazy. And then we had this massive protest. You saw that. I got on the cover of the Boston Herald, the epic picture. And, we had thousands of people show up at the State House, you know, at a reopened mass, because we know we're being lied to about all this coronavirus stuff. And we had, you know, thousands of people in the Globe, Boston Globe, once again, said we had a couple hundred, complete lie, and they know they're lying. They absolutely know they're lying. So it's no longer news. It's just propaganda disguised as news. Then we went to the governor's house, another massive event. The media lied about that. The governor demanded that police prevent us from having our event at his house. And the police said, no, their oath is to the Constitution, not to the governor. And we have a First Amendment right to assemble. They were excellent, by the way. You know, and I don't blame the cops. They're being told to do a lot of stupid things. Don't blame the police. It's the politicians telling them to do things that have nothing to do with law enforcement. When you see the government doing the types of things that they're doing right now, it has nothing to do with law enforcement. It's all about power. After that, we did the one we did on Saturday at the State House. Lower turnout because a lot of people were afraid of the violence. We had a few hundred people there. We had a dynamic event, and we had Rayla Campbell, who's an African-American woman running against squad member Ayanna Presley, and she was just astonishing to listen to. You should see, we got some clips on our site. You should check her out. She's amazing. And yet, she'll probably be completely marginalized by the media because she's a black conservative. And they hate black conservatives more than any other group because blacks are supposed to stay on the plantation and do what they're told, right? Vote Democrat. And she just couldn't give a damn about that. She just goes straight forward. She's a charming, intelligent, engaging, one-of-a-kind candidate we don't see for years sometimes. And she's kind of like a young Candace Owens. She's just amazing, and I really hope that she can make some headway against Ayanna Presley, who's just another crazy person. So that's what we've been up to. We're building our organization, and we've built a great internal organization because we're going through a massive expansion right now. All the small groups are joining our group, and we've got a lot of anti-communists in our group, which is good. A lot of the anti-communists, by the way, are either Vietnamese or Chinese, people who actually lived under communism. And when they see these stupid Antifa people waving the communist flag, they just have a meltdown and they yell them back. You go live in China. You go live in North Korea if you like that so much. You never see people fleeing our country to go to communist countries, yet these children are all promoting this.
Right. It's always the other way around. So true.
Of course it is.
So we just saw
someone jumping into East Germany when the wall was up. Imagine someone doing that. I want to live in East Germany. Yeah. You didn't see that. Not one.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. People want to be here for a reason, but yet, we have people now in this country who hate the American way. This is what people flee their countries for. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Now, we just saw some photos of the Straight Pride Parade. It was mixed in with some other events that you've done this year. But that's what the climate was like. And I was able to take those pictures because at some point during the parade, my friend and I got separated from the actual parade where all the police were protecting us. And I ended up face to face with some Antifa people. And it was scary, to say the least. So I don't know if my producer can roll some of those pictures again, but where you see people holding up signs of Nazi and white supremacists, I was face to face with those signs, yet I was a speaker at the event. Go figure.
Because none of it's true, but they just keep saying it, and it's the big lie. Eventually people believe it. A lot of people think that about me, and it's tough. But when you go into this, Felicia, you have to decide, look, people are going to hate it. People on the left are going to hate you. They're going to attack you. It's just par for the course. I believe it was Winston Churchill who said, if you don't have any enemies, you never did anything in life. So this is what's happening. I accept what they're going to do to me because the cause is too important to abandon, and nobody is doing what we're doing in Massachusetts but our group. And we plan to take this national eventually. We're building a strong base right now, and we're growing exponentially. It's amazing, really. The safety in numbers, and we've got so many people now that when we have an event, the Antifa has to be a little careful because we're not going to tolerate them throwing things at us and throwing urine at us, and some of the other things that go on. It's just this is a domestic terrorist group and wholly owned subsidiary of the Democrat Party. When Trump said he was going to declare them a terrorist group this week, if you'll notice, all the big papers, ACLU, all the big networks did stories supporting Antifa's right to exist. Because they're one and the same. The press, the Democrat Party, the terrorist group Antifa, they're all one big cabal. And people should not be the least bit confused about that. AOC and Ayanna Presley both raised money for the protesters arrested at our parade. Instead of supporting the hardworking men and women of law enforcement who are subject to that abuse, who had to arrest these idiots, they go the opposite and they support the criminals. Just like you're seeing all over the country, like San Francisco, where you can walk into a store with a hefty bag and fill it up with merchandise and run out, and if the cops capture you, they're only allowed to write you a ticket. Which means you can't really have a store anymore in San Francisco because people can just do whatever they want. They come in and take what they feel like. It's very, very bad. We're moving in a lawless direction. anarchy we're getting, and it's got to stop. We need to push back. We need law and order, and we need limited government. My God, the government is getting worse every day, but we're losing it slowly by the death of 1,000 cuts, and people aren't noticing. And we have nothing compared to what our framers built for us. It's a shame. And we need to get back to it now, or we're going to lose it all completely. Very scary times we live in.
It is. It is a very scary time. But, you know, at the same time, people need to actively get involved. It's not enough to take to Facebook. It's not enough to, you know, to just kind of, you know, talk to your friends about it. You have to get involved. Write the letters. Write your congressman. Write those people who are, you know, your local township committee people. You know, we have to start putting pressure on the politicians, the people that we put in to office, to do the right thing.
Felicia, you know what? Some people think you're an activist.
Yeah, even here, you know, people are not really paying attention to the voting and how politicians vote. This is extremely important. I looked at, in my area, how many people voted down the LGBT curriculum to be passed. And there was one assemblyman, one senator. I want to say Eric Peterson was the assemblyman who flatly said no. He voted no. And the other one was Senator Dougherty voted no. And I looked at the others who could have voted no, and they didn't. They either were absent or just didn't vote. That's not good enough. You know, we need more conservative politicians who are willing to stand up. The Democrats do. They stand up for what they believe. They don't have an issue with it.
We see it. 90% of the people think that putting some memes on Facebook or putting some comments on social media is the extent of the activism. And that doesn't count for crap. You know, the fight is out there on the street. A lot of these politicians, you send them an email, they just delete it. We need to be more aggressive. And yes, we need to be voting for other people. People who go to Congress, they're supposed to be there for a term or two. They're staying there 40, 50 years, some of them. You know, the average age in Congress is very old because you can't get them out once they get in. They need to change the way we do elections. Unfortunately, the situation is we can't get a voter ID law, which we badly need, because each state under our system has the right to decide how to run their elections. And you see BS like California, which counts illegal aliens in their census, and they get about 5 extra congressional seats because they count them, the illegals in their population, and that's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But like you were saying, we have to be willing to take risks. We have to be willing to fight. If you look at some of those photos from all the police presence that were there at the parade, the people who were there protesting Antifa, they were spitting on people, throwing things at people. And there were a couple of arrests made in Boston that day of the Antifa people because we were calm. You know, we didn't have any problems on our end. But listen, we all put our lives on the line that day to make a point. Our lives really were on the line because we didn't know how that was all going to turn out.
And, you know, only half the people who showed up to be in the parade actually got in. They even lied to you and told you that you couldn't come into our event, even though you were a speaker, right?
That's right. One of the police officers, I was looking for direction after I got disconnected from the group, looking for direction to get back into where the speaking was going to take place. And I was clearly told by an officer, oh, the speaking part of the parade has been canceled. And I said, I'm sorry, but I didn't receive a text message.
That is a lie you can tell. That's the mayor of Boston screwing with us, by the way. Yeah, Marty Walsh. He's a simpleton. He's really bad. You know, he congratulated the rioters last night for their brave protest. And Mark Sahady sent him a little note. It was really funny on Twitter. He said, "It's too bad that these protesters couldn't behave themselves like those who walked in the straight pride parade." I thought, which is pretty good, because he's congratulating people who are burning and looting Back Bay. Give me a break. With the first time someone throws a brick, you arrest them. You see someone light a fire, arrest them. You arrest everybody who's acting up, and you take zero BS, because that's what it takes to protect the city. That's their job, and they're not doing it. They're too busy kowtowing to these far-left maniacs who are destroying public property, assaulting people, and lighting things on fire. No thanks. That's not leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. Burning down people's businesses, I mean, what does that say? Looting, what does that say? It doesn't amount to anything except you're destroying your own community. For me, if I were to be the head or to lead something like that, I would say stop spending money or something that's going to be effective, quietly effective. Looting, stealing, burning down businesses, this is not the way to go.
I know it's a terrible example to be setting. And again, a lot of these people could give a damn who the police killed. It's just an opportunity to go rob a liquor store. And you know that Antifa is flying all over the country into these hot spots and trying to turn peaceful protests into riots. And they're doing a good job. And this is no coincidence. This is the week that President Trump says he's declaring them a domestic terrorist group, which is long overdue. I remember that poor reporter, Andy No, little gay Asian reporter, had 20 people in Antifa attack him simultaneously with rocks. They gave the guy brain damage, okay? This is how they are. This is how tough they are. They like to fight women and people who can't fight back. They're not, they come across some real men like we have in our group, they go running the other way. But that's their mentality. And they employ Nazi techniques, and they employ these Olinskyite rules, which actually tell them to accuse your opponent of what you're doing. This is standard technique on the far left. They're the Nazis. They're the ones all dressed in black like a bunch of stormtroopers. We're just some clean-cut Americans walking down the street, and we get called the most disgusting and despicable things. And it's really quite frightening how much the press is in the tank for these people. Nothing but lies. They just lie and lie and lie. And I tell people, put down the newspaper, stop watching the news. It's all fake. You're being lied to.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question going back to the Straight Pride Parade, which was really your first successful event as Super Happy Fun America. I know it was tough getting the permits. Can you just expound on that for a moment? Like, what was that process like for you?
Yeah, the administration and the press was very hostile. We eventually had to get some lawyers involved. But the fact is, you can't say you're going to have a gay pride parade and not have a straight pride parade. We actually use their own laws against them. If we're not a sexual orientation, then neither are they. So we have the argument of equal treatment under the law, and they eventually, even though they attacked us, they said that they had to let us have our event, even though they disagreed with us. The mayor came out against us. Apparently being straight's a bad thing. And they literally, all the news stations, I think I mentioned this, kept saying there were going to be 10 people there. Well, you saw a massive crowd there, and because the media was lying. This is what we had to overcome, and I'm telling you, it looked at the last few days like it wasn't going to happen. The police told us they were going to let Antifa block our path. And if they did, they would just let them sit there. And we had to go. We went on a local show, Jeff Kuna, who's a giant, and he let us attack. And I said what the police told me, that they didn't let Antifa block us. And I said I want City Hall deluged with phone calls. And you know what? That's what happened. The phone rang from morning to night, demanding that our rights to have a parade be respected. And finally, I mean literally the day before, they backed down. We had a successful parade.
It was successful, and I think you got your messages across. You had some great speakers there. It was very energetic, and it was scary at the same time, John.
We had fun, though. The other side was the miserable side. We had this great picture of this kind of chubby woman wearing a shirt that said love and with a big heart, and the heart had the LGBT flag stripes, and she's holding up her middle finger. Yeah. These people, we call now we don't care if you're gay. We had a gay grand marshal. We have gay people still in our organization, okay? And we don't discriminate. But the other side absolutely discriminates, and they've done some terrible things. We call them the gay Stapo, these totally radical gay activists who, their way of the highway. I won't mention the member's name, but one of the great ladies who spoke at our event, they poured pink paint all over her house when she was out. Now, imagine if we did something similar to a gay rights organization, right? If you'd never hear the end of it, it would be the hate crime of the century. This is how these people act. They sent us fake powder bombs in the mail to our house. And the media position, well, we were scared of glitter because that's what was inside. But it was made to look like a terrorist attack. It probably cost $1 million in resources with all the bomb squads going into all the houses that got the letters. And, they attacked us for being scared of the letter bombs. If you were getting hate mail and death threats and people sent you powder in the mail, wouldn't you be a little concerned and call the police?
Absolutely.
And yet, instead of condemning the people who sent them, they attacked us as the recipients of the fake bombs. This is how diabolically evil the mainstream media is. They're absolutely awful. It's much worse than people think.
So you got hate mail. You got some liquid in the mail. Am I correct?
Powder, not liquid.
There was some type of powder in the mail, and it could have been anything, this powder. But the police played it down. They downplayed it.
No, not at all. The police did a great job. They brought in the hazmat teams. They took possession of the 5 envelopes that was sent. One of them was sent to City Hall, by the way, Boston City Hall. The media, once they opened them and they found out that they had mainly had glitter and LGBTQ stuff in it, which we had no idea. You're not going to open something like that when you get that kind of threat, And it has glitter in it, so the media put out the story that we at Super Happy Fun America were afraid of glitter. That's the story.
So I get you. So the media made light of it, whereas had an LGBT person received the same envelope, right, that appeared to be threatening, it would have been a different narrative.
It would have been a crime of the century, of course. So, this is some of the stuff that we have to go through all the time. And yeah, they attack us at work. They attack us, in public. They smear our reputations. All the rules that they want, all the tolerance that they demand, and that's the word you hear from them all the time is tolerance. Well, they're the most intolerant people. And I'll tell you, of all the media, I'm going to tell you the very worst one is National Public Radio. Just horrible, disgusting, despicable reporting. They lie. They are the worst people ever. I've never seen anything worse than NPR. They called Sam Rachopi, who's our chairman. He's like one of the top 3 guys in our organization. Their first question was, "Are you a white supremacist?" Oh, yeah. Okay, great. No, I'm not.
Right.
The next question. Next question was, "Do you like swastikas?" So this is the mentality of these idiots, okay? NPR was fired Juan Williams, a black liberal, super liberal, because he went on Fox News. That's why he got fired from NPR. I don't agree with Juan Williams on anything, but to fire someone because they went on Fox News, crying out loud, that's ridiculous. Yeah.
And you know what? To a certain extent, I think all media plays us, because you look at Fox News they just changed hands in terms of ownership, and what does that mean for the quality of the news station now, the news outlet?
They've hired Donna Brazil, the one who fixed the debate with Hillary. Her reputation is gone, and yet she's now one of their spokespeople. It shows how far Fox News has fallen.
Yeah, I'm just saying we have to be cautious of the media.
I like Greg Gutfeld still, like I said, and they still have some good conservatives there, but you definitely see some very anti-Trump reporters there. Not as bad as MSNBC or CNN, which is 24/7 attack the president.
Yeah.
It's sad because people believe it. It's amazing. A lot of people believe it just because it's on TV. Like, how could they lie? It's on the news, right?
Absolutely.
We heard for 2 years about Russia collusion. What a completely preposterous story on its face. But they sold it to us like it was gospel. And then without missing a heartbeat, as soon as Russian collusion was over, on to the next attack, right? The Ukraine thing. And then they try to impeach the president for making a phone call. And yet, if you question these things, you're full of hate. You're a bad person. Well, enough already. They won't let this guy do his job. I don't think a president has gone through so much crap since Abraham Lincoln. And I don't know how Trump does it, to be honest with you, because it would get you down being attacked like that day in and day out. He's absolutely right when he says fake news.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I really applaud him for bringing that to the public's attention. I believe most of us were asleep on the fact that we were just surrounded by fake news all the time. But he's been adamant, and he from the very beginning has exposed the media for who they are,
Trump was never really a conservative. He's more of a populist, but he really has stepped up since taking office. And I have to say, I agree with the guy 90% of the time. I think he's doing an outstanding job. And how much better would our country be if the Democrats, instead of constantly trying to tear the man down, if they actually tried to work with him? Remember Newt Gingrich worked with Tip O'Neill and in the Clinton administration? They actually got things done. Those days are gone. It's all scorched earth. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. It's all about an agenda, and so he's never going, unfortunately, get the support that he needs. This is all agenda-driven. He has set back the Democrats' plan by 4 years, and they feel like they need to catch up. I mean, what's happening in our country? Even when I look at the riots, I don't really know who's behind all this destruction.
I do.
You've got Antifa mixed in there. You've got a lot of money from the Democratic Party likely mixed in with that. They want the White House back and will stop at nothing. So I don't take any of this at face value.
When you say stop at nothing, that includes completely destroying our economy. And the other big elephant in the room, the national debt is a time bomb. People don't realize the entire GDP of our country, I think it's around 19 trillion. We're heading for 27 trillion in the national debt. It's unsustainable. Each taxpayer is going to owe about $200,000 as their share of the national debt. If most people had that in credit card debt, they'd never pay it back. It's really bad. Things are getting worse and worse and worse. And, I fear for my country, and I'm doing my little part to fight back.
Absolutely. You sure are. Yeah. So where can we find a link to Super Happy Fun America? I am definitely going to post it later after the show. But tell us how, if someone wanted to contact you to come to speak or to be a part of your organization, how can they do that?
They can go to worldwideweb.superhappyfunamerica.com. We also have a law center which takes on things like the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is www.shfalc for Super Happy Fun America Law Center.org. And we have a Facebook page which is very, very active. And there's ways to contact us and phone numbers and everything. You can reach us there as well. So, please do get involved. We need people to step up because no one else is going to do it. It's you out there. It's every American's responsibility to leave the same wonderful Constitution and protections that our forefathers left us. Let's not be the cursed generation which loses it.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today, John. I look forward to having you on the program in the near future, and I'm looking forward to another straight pride parade. Is that in the making, or what's the deal with that?
They're fighting us tooth and nail, and they're using this coronavirus to stop us. But we have every intention of having Parade 2.0. Can't give you a date yet. It's up to the lawyers. But rest assured, we will not take no for an answer, and you will certainly be invited.
Thank you. I look forward to it. Again, this is John Hugo. He is the president of Super Happy Fun America. Please check out his website and his Facebook page. I will also post that information below once the show has concluded. Thank you so much for joining me, to my Facebook Live audience and to my Hamilton Radio audience. Have a wonderful afternoon, John. Have a wonderful afternoon to my audience.